Hey everybody! Welcome to another entry of our Biodiversity Day 2020. We're up here at Palomar Mountain State Park on Myers Fire Road. My name is Will and we're exploring some of the biodiversity here at Palomar's south-facing slopes up here on Myers Fire Road. It's been really fun exploring California's biodiversity with you all, and I wanted to take a look up here at this particular spot because it showcases some of our own biodiversity here based on geography. So what's unique about this hill slope, is that it's particularly semi-arid when we compare it to the rest of Palomar Mountain State Park. So if you look behind me, you'll see a big forest. All those hillsides are covered in trees like pine, fir, cedar, and if you look around me, it almost looks somewhat desert-like. Not quite desert-like, but it's semi-arid, and that's because this is a south-facing slope. So when we inspect some of the plants here on this slope, one of the ones we have here is buckwheat, California buckwheat, which is Eriogonum californicum. And this is a particular favorite of pollinators, and it does pretty well in drought-tolerant areas, so lots of sunlight coming in on this hill. This soil is also pretty well drained, so they don't need a whole lot of water in order to survive either. Another good species that's established itself pretty well on this hot south-facing slope are the choke cherries. And this is also a plant that's highly utilized by the wildlife as well because of those cherries that you'll see there. They're pretty bitter, but definitely still some good stuff to eat. And you'll notice that they're growing a lot around these boulders, and there's actually quite a bit of exposed boulders here. And if we take a look at the soil, let me grab some soil and hold it in my hands. There's some silt there, but it's mostly sand, which means that it's pretty well drained, and there's not going to be a whole lot of water staying on this hill slope, meaning that the plants aren't going to have a whole lot of access to water either. So overall, that just makes this a much hotter and a much drier hill slope than the surrounding areas, than the other hill slopes that we see here at Palomar. And therefore, the plant communities that we see are much more drought tolerant. They're much more low-lying. We don't see as many tall plants either. And the biodiversity up here is plants that are going to be more drought tolerant. So heck, I bet if we even looked hard enough, we could find some cactus around here if we really try. So it's really emphasized. You can see from just the plant community, if we look and we see how many exposed boulders and outcrops there are, this is a very, very hot and dry hill slope when we compare it to other areas of the park. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So if we look around behind me, you'll see a vast meadow down below in the valley, and surrounding it are oak trees and other conifers like pines and cedars and fir trees. So next, let's go explore some of those areas and show that the biodiversity in this area can change drastically just from going on a south-facing slope to a north-facing slope down in the valley. So let's go do that. So we've made it down to the valley. We were, in our previous little segments, when we were exploring the biodiversity, we were up on that ridge up there. Now we've made our way down here, we're down in the valley, and now I want to talk about this meadow. So here we have a completely different type of habitat known as a meadow, and we have different plants here. Ones that are much more at home in this environment, so yarrow, woolly yarrow, some goldenrod, there's some stinging nettle behind me as well. In the meadow, you're going to find a much different type of plant community, as well as the animals that use those plants for food and shelter, and they use this habitat also for mating grounds as well. So not only does plant diversity differ geographically, but it also affects animal diversity, as you see. So we'll get things like dragonflies, snakes, gophers, moles, lots of different types of animals here than you would find up on that dry hill slope that we were at. The other cool thing about this spot is that it's right next to Dome Pond, which is a completely different type of habitat. So let's shift our focus to Dome Pond. You'll follow me over here. It's almost like we've changed locations completely, but I've only walked a few short feet over here, and we've got a completely different environment, an aquatic habitat, where you'll find animals living along the shore, like bullfrogs, small fish, maybe bluegills, other tadpoles, things like snakes as well. You might even find, at dusk, you'll find bats in these areas. And then animals such as waterfowl, like American coots, mallard ducks, great blue herons that like to hang around the sides and search for prey. And then, of course, snails and limpets, animals that actually live at the bottom of the pond itself. So, just from transitioning in the meadow right over to this area, we have a rather large amount of biodiversity. From the meadow environment to this aquatic environment here at the pond. Oh, there's a little critter right there. So here we have the aquatic habitats that we've been talking about. Now let's talk about a forest habitat, which is just right next to me. All we need to do is walk a few feet right here, and now we're in a forested habitat. So what's unique about this forest habitat, well, really all forest habitats, is that trees are obviously going to be the main habitat for a lot of animals like birds, squirrels, bobcats, but there's also tiers to the canopy as well. So there's the understory where a lot of, say, ground squirrels, robins, towhees, they like to forage. Then there's the middle part of the canopy, so the middle parts of the actual tree. That's where lots of woodpeckers, Steller's jays, other types of forest birds like to hang out, maybe the band-tailed pigeon. And then there's the top of the canopy, and that is where you see more birds like hawks. And you also see gray tree squirrels up there as well, because they're able to actually traverse the arboreal environment up there. So, right next to me actually this tree. I like this tree a lot, this one right here. This one's called white alder, and this is a tree that really needs a lot of water to survive. So this tree sort of sits in both environments. It's both, it needs a lot of water, so it's somewhat riparian or aquatic. That's why we see it right here next to the pond. But it also provides habitat to the forest birds, the birds that typically like to spend most of their time in the forest habitats. So, obviously, just from going up on our semi-arid ridge, moving down into the valley and checking out the meadows, and then taking a look at our pond, and then finally taking a look at our actual forest canopy, there's an incredible amount of biodiversity here at Palomar Mountain State Park. Just from going through these 4 different habitats. And in that you'll see a wide variety of plant communities and animal communities, and it's just indicative of how much biodiversity there is on this mountain. So I want to thank you all for joining us on this California Biodiversity Day 2020 here at Palomar, and encourage you all to go and explore the areas around you and see what kind of biodiversity you can find right around your local area, because you might be surprised. Once again, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.